Hello and welcome to my easy to understand guide to this Daily Mirror front cover and article in terms of media language and representation. This video is going to be particularly relevant for you if you are studying the Edquas A-Level Media Studies specification, as these pages appear on the specification as set texts for exams from 2024 onwards. The masthead, the Daily Mirror, makes it feel as though this newspaper is going to reflect, like a mirror, the day's events to us. Above the masthead is a strapline, the heart of Britain, and that really makes it feel as though this newspaper is central to our lives and very important to the country. There's an image of the Queen in the top of the newspaper cover. She's seen in quite a kind of traditional, very embellished, jewelled outfit with a crown, necklace, earrings, lots of kind of jewels that would be quite expensive. So clearly representing her as being very wealthy, very upper class, and perhaps creating a little bit of an escapist fantasy for some audiences who may dream of being as wealthy and powerful as she is. The fact that they're using such an old photo of her is clearly showing that she has been the Queen for a very long time, representing her as being a long-standing institution of the country, and representing this article as showing the real history of the monarchy. And that's emphasised by the image of her father on the right-hand side, King George. And so really kind of representing the monarchy as being full of tradition and history. You can see that the front cover is basically a giant image with some very large headlines and a very small amount of copy. And that is very conventional for a tabloid newspaper, because we often think that large images are going to engage audiences. Big bold headlines, often in sans serif fonts, are very eye-catching. And also the idea is that the average reader of the Daily Mirror has quite low literacy levels, and so keeping the amount of copy or text to a minimum really helps to engage them and makes the stories easy to understand. The image of Boris is very large, which makes him seem very important. He's wearing a suit and tie, which we often associate as representing someone as being quite wealthy, classy, successful and powerful. However, he does look a little bit dishevelled, and his face doesn't look like the face of a very proud, powerful Prime Minister. It looks like somebody who is perhaps a little bit unapologetic. He looks a little bit like he's smirking slightly. Perhaps he's quite defiant. So representing him as perhaps not being particularly sorry for the trouble that he's in. And the meaning of that image is really anchored by the big headline across the page, which says "Zero Shame." And you know, that really kind of emphasizes this idea that perhaps he should feel shame, he should feel sorry, but doesn't. King George in the top right, and also Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, in the bottom left, are also wearing suits and ties. So really representing men as being quite powerful and dominant on this front cover. Within the larger part of the headline, there's lots of use of facts and numbers. So 12 parties, 3 attended, 1 in his own flat, 300 pictures. Those numbers really help to make the article very persuasive and emphasise the sheer amount of evidence against Boris Johnson and the Conservatives. The use of ellipsis at the end of this, where it says 300 pictures handed over, ... and still, it's that idea that there's still no apology. Nothing has happened as a result of all this evidence. And so emphasising the values that the Daily Mirror has, where they are, expecting an apology. It suggests that the Daily Mirror wants an apology and expects something to happen, which really obviously links to the fact that the Daily Mirror, their political standpoint is pro-Labour and anti-Conservative. Their feelings against Boris Johnson are emphasised here with the use of quite biased language, where they call Boris Johnson shameless in the first sentence. So really creating quite a negative representation of Boris. The paper creates this kind of binary opposition between Boris Johnson and the public. So it says that Boris Johnson was out partying, and then it says, while the rest of the nation was diligently sticking to the rules. And so really helping to make us as an audience feel like we were doing the right thing and he wasn't. And so it's pitting Boris Johnson against the rest of Britain. They use words like the fact they say he snubbed and that he was brashly responding. The use of these quite negative words, or words with negative connotations, really help to create this representation of him as being someone that has done something wrong and shouldn't be respected. There is a kind of intertextual cultural code here with the phrase Partygate, which is a reference, kind of play on words, to the Watergate scandal. And you can read up a little bit more about that in your own time if you want to, but essentially it's another political scandal where people found out that they could not trust the leaders of their country. And so using this kind of phrase, this cultural or referential code that only some audiences would understand, it's again there to emphasise the fact that people should not trust Boris Johnson. We also have a double page spread as part of this set text as well to look at. Again, the repetition of this word, shame. We see it several times on the front cover and several times in the double page spread too. Again, just emphasising the fact that Boris Johnson has done something negative. We get the image and the little kind of box insert there of Boris Johnson drinking champagne, and that helps to contrast when it's juxtaposed against the main image on this double page spread of NHS workers, and you can see them with all their PPE gear on, masks, visors, gloves. So it's the contrast between those two images, people working very hard to save lives and Boris Johnson sipping champagne. And it creates that representation of him being not very hardworking by contrast, and being someone who's just enjoying the high life rather than actually doing anything to save people. It's important to have a look at the source of the interview inside. So the article itself is written by Keir Starmer, who is the leader of the Labour Party. And that explains absolutely why the article is very anti-Boris Johnson and anti-Conservative Party, because of course the leader of the Labour Party is going to be writing negative things about the Conservatives. Keir Starmer uses lots of quite inclusive language in this article to make the readers feel as though they are part of Keir Starmer's belief system, they're part of his group and not part of the Conservatives. So for example, he says, "Dear Mirror readers," so he's addressing them directly. He then uses quite inclusive language like, "Our response to COVID, when we were tested, we stood up. We weren't able to visit elderly relatives. Many of us missed funerals and births." So the use of this inclusive language really represents Keir Starmer as being a man of the people and being very similar to the readers of the newspaper. He representing British public as being kind of very hardworking, as being people who've done their best. He even flatters the British public in the little pull quote here. It says, "The British people aren't fools." So this use of flattery, obviously to try and persuade an audience, but really representing the fact that he thinks the British people are good people, and again contrasting that with how he feels about Boris Johnson. The newspaper also invites readers to make a comparison between Boris and another kind of real member of the public. So it says, "Compare Hannah's quiet dignity with his lying bombast." So it's this idea that we're asked to see Hannah, this person in the article, as being this kind of good, heroic, almost victim in this story, having to work hard and not having the ability to see her friends and family, versus the kind of villain of Boris Johnson and the Conservative Party. There's an intertextual reference here suggesting that the Conservative Party played an ABBA song, "The Winner Takes It All," at one of their parties. And whilst that's a very popular song, obviously good for engaging audiences because they often know that song, it's also representing the Conservative Party as feeling very confident and cocky, as though they are winners in life. And this idea of them taking it all will be quite annoying and frustrating to a lot of working class readers who will feel that the kind of upper echelons of society often do seem to take it all away from working class people. On the right hand side of the double page spread, there's a series of small extracts where real people have given their opinions about Boris Johnson, the Conservatives and the events. And these little mini articles all help to represent Boris Johnson in a negative fashion and seem to connote that the British public in general are against him and do not support him in this situation.
The vast majority of these opinion pieces are by people from working class backgrounds, quite diverse backgrounds as well in terms of things like gender, age and ethnicity. And these representations will appeal to the readers of the Daily Mirror who may find themselves in very similar situations.
The double page spread clearly represents NHS workers and other key workers in a much more positive, heroic fashion. We see them with their kind of protective equipment on, their masks, their visors, their gloves, working very hard to save people's lives. The caption says they're treating a COVID victim and it says critical care, which makes them seem like they're doing a very difficult and very important job. In the small article on the left-hand side, they talk about the vaccine rollout within Britain and how the care workers have really struggled in particular. And so the article does seem to be very representing NHS workers and key workers in a very positive, heroic, but also victimised light, as though they are struggling, as though they are the protagonists that we should support, and as though the Conservative government are the villains in this narrative. Over on the left-hand side, you get some smaller articles, again using quite negative language, so things like a stain on our great nation, real negative connotations to this, making Boris Johnson and the Conservative Party seem dirty, as though they have ruined the country. In the bottom left-hand corner, there is a kind of satirical political meme, I guess, with Vladimir Putin on the phone, basically saying that he doesn't want to talk to Boris because even he can't be associated with him. So really using kind of satire and edited graphics and speech bubbles to make Boris Johnson seem so bad that even Putin doesn't want to be seen with him. So it is really emphasising the negative aspects of Boris Johnson. That was my easy to understand guide to the Daily Mirror front cover and article for Edquas at A-level. If you would like any videos that I don't already have, just leave a little comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel because there's lots of other videos that are going to be relevant for you.